Hello and welcome to Excelling in Christ, a program where we look at ideas and strategies and tactics to help take our spiritual journey to the next level. Today we're looking at 8 strategies to help get us to that most enjoyable experience. And what I'm talking about is the experience of looking in the mirror and truly loving and appreciating and valuing the person that's looking back at you. Now, obviously, that's not an easy journey for everyone, but it is worth the effort. It is worth the effort to silence that constant inner critic that is always self-condemning and learning to live at that level of joy. Now, obviously, we're all alike in a lot of ways. We have 2 hands, 2 eyes, 2 feet, so on and so forth. In fact, science tells us that our DNA is 99.9% the same. But it's that 0.1% that makes you, you. And out of the 8 billion people on the planet, there is not another you. And so part of my strategy is to look at that one little dot, that one little dash, that little bit of difference as God's gift that He hid in the field of your heart, and encourage you to discover your unique individuality and to value it and cherish it and start to appreciate it when you look in the mirror. So strategy number 1, very simple, is just look at your individuality, recognize your individuality, and recognize that you are supposed to be different. If God had wanted you to be somebody else, He'd have created somebody else. But He wanted you to be you, and so He created you. Now, a lot of people struggle with this, and the question comes up is, of course, why do so many people have this constant critic inside their head, always putting them down? Now, I want to be clear. I am not criticizing anybody here. I've been down that path myself. I had to learn to get myself out of that trap, just the way I'm encouraging you to get out of that self-condemnation trap. And the first thing, one of the first things that you need to learn is that you are not fundamentally flawed. You're just caught in a trap. Now, sure, you have some behaviors and some things you need to change. I get that. You got some skills you need to develop, but you're not fundamentally broken. You're like this perfect phone, and every time somebody puts the wrong number in, they get the wrong number. Nothing wrong with the phone, it's just the wrong information inside of it, and that's the way so many of us are. We don't need to change at a fundamental level. We simply need to recognize that we're in a trap, that we've got some bad information, and we need to get out of that trap. And that's part of my strategy. Just sit back for a while and just contemplate. Hey, you're not fundamentally broken. You don't need to change who you are at a fundamental level. Now, obviously, there's that inner voice. It develops really early on in life. And for most of us, I would say it probably really happened before we were 10, maybe as young as 6 years old. Who really knows? Everybody's story is a little different. But one of the things that happens to us is we have people, whether they were mean or they were well-meaning, and they would stick ideas in our head that weren't quite rational. They would point to the movie stars and say, "Now those are the beautiful people," or they would point to the pro athletes and say, "Now that's what a real athlete does," or maybe they'd point to the ultra rich and say, "Now those are the people who have really succeeded." And then here we are at 5, 6, 8 years old, and we look in the mirror and we realize we're not beautiful movie stars. And we're playing Little League ball maybe, and we realize, well, we're certainly not pro athletes. And of course, we look around our homes and none of us are the ultra rich. And there's that voice of lack that starts coming in and says, I'm not good as everybody else. And that voice that starts speaking a little bit and comparing us to other people. And it gets really complicated because, frankly, you were just too young to process it. There was no way you could process that information at 8 years old or 10 or 12 years old. And what happens is you start measuring yourself by other people, and you just go deeper and deeper into that trap. And it is so unfair. Think about this a second. So let's imagine you're 12 years old. You're measuring yourself to that pro athlete who has 15, 20 years on you, 15, 20 years experience. You just were in the school play in the 6th grade, and now you're comparing yourself to one of the top movie stars of the day, and they've got 30, 40 years experience on you. Now look, how crazy is that? None of us in our right mind would take a 6-year-old, an 8-year-old, and tell them to compare themselves to a professional of 30, 40 years experience. But we did it because we were too young to understand all of the complexities involved, and we just went deeper and deeper into the trap. So my strategy number 3 is, hey, look at the lie. Look at how illogical it is to compare yourself to other people. It's just, this is not fair. Now, you're free to use any standard you want. You can judge yourself by any standard you choose, and I'm not going to judge you or criticize you. I'm going to wish you the best. But I chose a more doable standard. I chose to believe that I'm God's unique creation. I'm His work of art, and He put me together just like He wanted me. And I don't have to measure up to somebody else's impossible standards in order to find self-acceptance. And so my 4th strategy is just accept yourself as God created you. He put you together in your mother's womb the way He wanted you to be. And so now we're going to find the value in that, and we're going to be happy being what God created us to be. Now, I think that's just an awesome way to live. Now, for these other people that were in your life that put these bad ideas in your head, don't wish them any ill will. Don't feel bad about them. We don't want to stir up any of that. That's not going to do any of us any good. What I want you to understand is that hurting people hurt other people. And the reason they hurt you, whether it was intentional or not, was because they were not happy with their own life. They felt they were lacking. They felt they were missing something. And maybe they thought they were doing you good by showing you a standard that was so much higher. But whatever you do and however you process those people, don't hate them. You're just going to waste your time if you hate. So, best thing you can do is show them a demonstration of what it's like to live out of the trap of self-condemnation. Maybe they'll get the idea and want to join you there. My next tactic may sound a little bit harsh, but I'm not buying an impossible standard. I'm not doing it. No way. There are 8 billion people on the planet. There is no way that we can all 8 billion be super movie stars, professional athletes, or the ultra rich. Think about it. It's just simply impossible. But we can all be happy if we live by God's standards. And when I think of that, I think about the love that surpasses knowledge, the peace that passes understanding. Peter wrote about the joy that is inexpressible. Those are all possible. All 8 billion of us could do that if we wanted to. But all 8 billion of us can't be the best of the best at the same time. So my 5th strategy is just look at how impossible some of this stuff is. I go, no, I ain't doing that. I'm not chasing the impossible. Next, I want to tell you just to be practical. Sometimes you just got to back off and you got to be practical. So what I'm thinking of is, look at me. I am way too old to be competing with the most beautiful movie stars of our day. Not even going to try it. It's not on the table. I'm way too old to think about becoming a professional athlete, unless maybe checkers qualifies. I am way too old to start a business and start competing with the multi-billionaires of our day. It's just not happening. But let me tell you something. I am not too old to look in the mirror and truly love, value, and appreciate the person looking back at me. I am not too old to get up every morning and thank God for another day of life and appreciate being alive. So look, if somebody's putting a goal in front of you that's not practical, then why criticize yourself or condemn yourself for not achieving that which is virtually impossible to achieve? Just don't go there. Now, my next idea is to understand that transformation, getting out of that trap of self-condemnation, silencing that voice in your head that's been condemning you for the last 5, 10, 20, 30, 50 years is not going to be an instant change. That's going to take you a little bit of time. So it's going to be a journey of discovery. But what I'm doing in my own mind is I remind myself, look, God is not worried about creating an earthly masterpiece. God is working on an eternal masterpiece. And so while I am totally comfortable with the idea that I will never live at the level with the ultra rich and the super famous, that's cool. Because I know I can stand with the angels of God in eternity and the life to come. So number 7 is, look, give yourself some time to grow. Be patient with you. You spent most of your life putting yourself down, wrestling that voice of self-condemnation. It's going to take some time to learn some new habits. So I know a lot of folks go, yeah, preacher, well, I've tried that. It didn't work. Well, welcome to the club. We all stumble around and bumble around, and nobody does it right the first time. I would guess nobody does it absolutely right the 20th, 30th, or 40th time. But it's worth persisting. So James 3:2 is one of my favorite verses, because in James 3:2, he says, we all stumble in many things. And what that tells me is God's not playing strike one, you're out. God is not an angry boss looking for a reason to fire you. Now, I know, sure, you can do better. Sure, you have behaviors you can change. That's okay. That's what Christianity is all about, is learning to improve and develop those things. But God's not out to get you like some bitter, angry, resentful boss. So my 8th strategy is to take an athletic mindset. That's what I've done myself. And what I'm saying is, I'm the athlete, God is the coach, and God is not against me. I'm on His team. He recruited us. He is recruiting us. I'm not sure how you want to say that, but He's not bitter that we're on His team. He's not resentful that we're on His team. He wants us on His team. And like any good coach, He knows that stumbling and making mistakes is just part of the training mindset. So that 8th strategy is, hey, just take an athletic mindset and say, I'm going to get better. I might not look real good today, but watch me a year from now. I'm really going to be better. So take these 8 strategies, ponder them, blend them together, experiment them, do with the ones what you think you ought to do. You know your life. I don't. And I just want to encourage you that it is possible to escape this trap of constant self-condemnation. It is possible to silence that voice so that when you do look in the mirror, you do love and appreciate and value the person looking back at you. Look, if you found a little value in this little short video, then share it with somebody else, because I am certain that working together, we can make a difference. Thank you. Have a great day, and God bless.